back, guys, and today we are here with a new video, and this is my round 3 in the tournament. I am currently 1-1, so it's obviously nice to get back onto a winning record. And my opponent today is Knighting for 247. It was very hard to type their name into the direct challenge, but they are playing. It's a mirror match. We are playing the Drake deck, and I've never been a fan of mirror matches because I generally play them worse than the opponent. I'm very impatient. I don't know. I'm not very good at playing mirror matches. That's kind of one of my biggest weaknesses. Also, along with whether to scry top and bottom. But yeah, so mirror match. Hopefully, I can get back on a winning ways. But there is some differences between our lists. My opponent is kind of all in on the Drake Phoenix plan, so they run a lot less interaction and a lot less that kind of really removal-y stuff, and they run Enigma Drakes. That's kind of the biggest difference between our list. They have all 4 Enigma Drakes as well as the Crackling Drakes. But overall, going into this match, I felt pretty confident just looking at the deck lists because, like I said, he's all in on the Drake plan while I'm kind of I'm running more interaction, entrancing melody, and stuff like that. So I feel like that generally gives your deck the advantage. Also, I also felt very confident because generally what I do is instead of trying to sideboard mid-game, I sideboard before the matchup even starts. I just look at my opponent's deck list and sort it out from there because I don't like to keep my opponent waiting. And you should be able to sideboard fine because I mean you can see your opponent's list and stuff. And I wanted to bring in like 13 out of 15 cards on my sideboard, so it was obviously a pretty good sign that things looked well for me post board. What was I going to say? I've lost track. It's been a long day. Yeah, so I felt pretty confident post board that things would go tilt my way, but you know, magic's magic, anything can happen. And well, we'll leave it at that. We'll just see how the matchup goes here. So yeah, I mean, it kind of gets dicey. I kind of went for the full control sideboard again, the traditional take out the Phoenix and then bring in the control package, Knave, Ral, etc, etc. But let's see how it works out for me. Kind of an awkward keep, not happy with this hand, but the Discovery should let me hit my 3rd land. So I mean, I'd have to get exceptionally unlucky here to whiff on it, and even if I do whiff, I've got a Radical Idea as well. So, drew the Lava Coil, cast this Discovery. It does not reveal a land, but at least I get to bin the Arc-like Phoenix, which is always nice. And then, yep, still moved on land, so I've dug 4 cards there with the draw step, which is pretty unfortunate. Really hoping I naturally rip the land here just so I can answer his Goblin Electromancer. But my opponent doesn't have one, so that's fine, and of course I draw the red land at that point, but can't bring back that Phoenix yet, need 3 spells, can only cast 2 this turn, so I'm going to Radical Idea on end step. My opponent had the same idea. So kind of not much happening here, neither of us had particularly explosive draws. The turn 2 Electromancer to turn 3 bring back like 3 Phoenixes is the dream in this deck. But bit of internal lag here. My internet didn't hold out too well this game. Luckily I didn't disconnect, but you'll see a couple freezes in here. Turn 3 they tap out for the Enigma Drake. Can't really do much about that, so I'm just going to Radical Idea, trying to hit more lands because I feel if I hit lands I'll be able to bring back my Phoenixes, and of course Niv Mizzet in my hand will just win the game. Opponent doesn't have too many answers for that. So this turn I'm going to tap out for my Electromancer. I didn't hit my land drop, so hoping this pop will find me. I get to dig 2 more cards. And do not hit a land. Wasn't feeling too confident he would like to hit land. It's not the end of the world. I do have a lot of spells at which I can cast in my hand, but my game plan at this point was to just draw lands, so it's kind of unfortunate that I'm just whiffing here. My opponent isn't really put, like I said though, neither of us really put on a lot of pressure this game. We kind of just stared at each other in the early game, but they do have that Enigma Drake, which will only get bigger as the game goes on. Fortunately, they do have the answer for my Electromancer, but in this matchup, that's not surprising. We all run so much cheap removal. And opponent decides to flashback the Radical Idea. Unfortunately, they do not. Fortunately, I mean they do not have the 3rd spell, but they did discard an Arc-like Phoenix there. At this point, I decided to do or die. I really need to hit a land, so discard this Arc-like Phoenix. Tormenting Voice, don't hit a land. So I think I'm about 20 cards deep in 17 cards deep in my library, and I've seen 3 lands. Pretty unfortunate, but you know, magic's magic. You gotta take the good with the bad. it's not exactly the end of the world either. I mean, I do have the answer to his creature he does have on board, and he doesn't have a particularly explosive draw. Plays an Electromancer. At this point, I don't think he can bring back the Arclight this turn. So, but I do need to start applying pressure to the board here. And then he flashes back that Radical Idea. Now he has 2 Phoenixes on the board, so things are looking less and less auspicious as this game goes on. However, I do have 2 Phoenix in my graveyard, I do think. And don't need this Electromancer. I need to hit land here. Draw the shock, draw the red mana, and that's perfect. Because now I can shock that Electromancer and Lava Coil the Phoenix. Now both the boards are empty. And like I said, with this Niv Mizzet in this hand, and especially now this Crackling Drake, I feel I can win this late game. And of course, it lets me bring back double Phoenix to smack my opponent for 6. That's also also an added bonus, you could say. So that was drawing the mountain there was absolutely huge off that opt, because literally mountain was my only draw. I needed a red source to be able to cast this cast the 3 spells. He plays a Crackling Drake. I'm not too worried. I have a Lava Coil. I'm kind of going for the tempo game plan at this point. I feel like I can win the late game, and I also feel like I can win the tempo game at this point. So it's pretty good. My opponent would need a pretty special turn to come back. Smack them for another 6. They are now down to 8. I have 5 lands, Niv Mizzet, Crackling Drake, and Radical Idea, which I can cast. So I'm feeling pretty confident at this point. Not over. The game's not by no means over, but it's I'm definitely in the favour. That was such a huge turn, that Shock Lava Coil turn. However, my opponent does have the Discovery, which is very perfect for them. They can, very perfect Great Grandma, I know. But it actually bins a 3rd Phoenix, which is pretty lucky by my opponent, though I suppose I can complain, considering I had 2. But it turns out I'm not the only person who can triple spell. My opponent does have the pretty good response here. They bring back 3 Phoenix, and now we're kind of having the Phoenix stare off. Going to see how they attack here, and this is kind of very important because it judges how they feel the matchup's going. As you can see, they only attack with 2, so they're worried about their feeling on the back foot, and you've got to use that information. If they'd attacked all out, they would have obviously feeling like they're still the aggressive deck, and by only attacking with 2, they're trying to still put on pressure but be a bit conservative. At this point, I just tap out for Drake, and I'm very happy making the trade. Yes, they can bring it back, but looking at my hand, it's pretty... I can bring back Phoenixes as well. They don't really have a particularly good attack with this Crackling Drake. And I feel like if they'd had a Lava Coil, they would have used it on a previous turn, so at this point I didn't think they had removal for the Crackling Drake. But I mean, my life total is pretty precarious as well, 12, and they've seen 3 Phoenix so far, so you know... You do have to play semi-conservatively. You don't want to just be reckless here. And oh, by the way, I forgot to say I make several misplays throughout this video. I did not play well. I actually played atrociously. One of them, which I already made, was when they killed my Electromancer. I forgot to cast that Radical Idea, so I'm a card down for no reason because didn't have the time to cast it since then. And my opponent's looking likely to bring back that Phoenix. They can take me down to 6 here, and if they have a removal spell, it's really bad. They can win this race. So it went from looking pretty in clear, but with that 3rd Phoenix, it's actually done a surprising amount. And me misplaying, not playing that Radical Idea definitely didn't help either. This game was not in the bag. And sure enough, they bring back the 3rd Phoenix. How did they feel like attacking? At this point, they debate attacking with 2, but I kind of feel like, I don't know, I don't like attacking with 2 there. If I'm them, I either attack with all 3 or don't attack at all, because all you're getting in is 3 damage, and I get to eat a Phoenix at this point. So, but however, I mean, it's with that attack as well, I think they had to sit back, because the chance of me being able to triple spell is very likely, considering I had 2 Radical Ideas in my graveyard. So I don't agree with my opponent's attack there, looking back in hindsight, obviously. And sure enough, I mean, I had the Lava Coil in hand as well, so this is just me making sure I've done my maths right. I do in fact have lethal. Kill his Enigma Drake, and then just double Radical Idea flashback here. And then I have 3 Phoenix. I have 2 more Phoenix in my graveyard, and then... Actually, no, I think I've only got 1 Phoenix in my graveyard. But it's enough, because 6 damage gets through because he chumps the Crackling Drake and then dies. So yeah, I think I don't agree with that attack of my opponent last turn. I do think that was, they should have sat back, but I mean the late game wasn't getting better for them. I had a Crackling Drake, etc. in my hand. So that was game one. Like I said, I told you how I sideboarded there. I just bring in the control package, Murmuring Mystics, take out the Phoenix, all the big Planeswalkers and the Mizzets, etc. Extra Lava Call, just more removal for their Drakes and stuff. So that was game one. I'll see you in a minute for game two. And we are back. And fun little bit of trivia here. I think we had to reset 8 times in a row here before my opponent was on the play. So it was a bit fun. Unfortunately, Kovaku Blue has me beat. He had to reset 9 times in a row for his round 3 match. Always one-upping me. But the hand was pretty solid. I have Electromancer, I have a Charcoax. Also have a pretty good late game here, so it's pretty obvious that I'm playing the control plan with this hand. I was fully expecting this Electromancer to die. I mean, the chance my opponent has a shock or something was like, I thought it was 100%, but they didn't seem to have it on turn 2 anywhere, which was pretty nice. And the Electromancer resolved, so I mean, obviously at this point I'm hoping to attack, Charcoax, just draw a bunch of cards, hit my land drops again. I'm kind of another sketchy 2-lander. And my opponent just plays Enigma Drake, and at this point I'm thinking, okay, I'll take that. Electromancer survived, I should be able to hit land drops here. Ooh, missed on that turn. Have a minute to think about what to discard. Actually get rid of Niv Mizzet here. I feel looking at my late game already, I have 2 Crackling Drakes and Ral, so I don't feel like Niv was necessary. I'm not entirely sure that's right. Very chance I make it wrong. But luckily that radical idea does hit me into a land, so I do hit my land drop for the turn for once. Normally I flood out in this deck, just it's so easy to flood out if you're just discarding cards to draw extra cards eventually. You'll hit a pocket of land and kind of whiff, but my opponent's on the hardcast Phoenix plan, and I do naturally hit land again, decide, you know what, Crackling Drake blocks pretty well. If he has a removal spell, that's fine with me. I'm happy trading into a removal spell, and if he doesn't have a removal spell, Arc-like Phoenix can't even attack. So I'm feeling okay getting with the Electromancer. My opponent, speaking of Electromancers, my opponent plays one of their own, and well, things are looking not particularly great. I mean, my hand is stacked. I have 5 lands already. Unfortunately, my problem at this point was I just didn't have enough spells in the graveyard. Looking back, I think that Charcoax maybe should have discarded one like a Beacon Bolt or something. Just because if you look, I just didn't like, if I tap off a Ral here, the minus doesn't really kill as Enigma Drake, which is what I'd really want it to do. So Ral wasn't really an option. Beacon Bolt was kind of dead in my hand because it couldn't it couldn't kill anything I wanted to kill, because obviously you don't want a Beacon Bolt and Arc-like Phoenix. My opponent decides he's aggressive, attacks with the Enigma Drake and the Arc-like Phoenix. I debate taking 1 less damage by blocking the Enigma Drake, but force my opponent to be able to bring it back. I'm on 9 life though, things are looking sketchy. So this was a really tough turn. I was tempted to play this Crackling Drake number 2, but I think what in the end I decided to do was, I can't remember. No, I do think I played Crackling Drake number 2 here, if I remember correctly. I hope I do. No, I remember wrong. At this point I decided I'm not too worried. I'm going to Murmuring Mystic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start making a bunch of 1/1s that can just chump his big scary creatures all day. Unfortunately, my opponent is hitting a lot of Phoenixes again. As you can see, that's number 2 in the graveyard, and they've already got 1 on the battlefield. So they had a pretty generous Phoenix draw. I think they've seen 6 so far in these two games, which is obviously where you want to be in the deck. But again, not feeling too worried. They can attack with that Enigma Drake, but I'll just make a 1/1 and chump with it. And obviously the Arc-like Phoenix can't attack unless my opponent has a removal spell, so I'm feeling like this Murmuring Mystic can just take over the game at this point. So it could still go either way. Unfortunately, my opponent does have the triple spell, I mean. So this board's starting to get a bit terrifying. They're probably just going to attack out all out again. Yeah, they're definitely the aggro deck. And he keeps the Electromagnet in the back, which I think is a mistake. I probably do have to jump it there. Actually, never mind, I've got the Murmuring Mystic. Speak out my ass. But yeah, at this point I'm taking a lot of pressure here, and go down to 3 life, and my opponent has a much bigger board. I draw the Lava Call, obviously a fantastic draw. just gonna start firing off removal spells, making 1/1s. So I'm feeling like I can take over the game here. So then I think I beacon bolt the Enigma Drake here. Yes, I do. Sorry, it's hard to remember. The game's all blurred together. But Enigma Drake, I've now got a pretty solid board, and then I make a pretty awful mistake here. For some reason, I decided to try and put pressure on my opponent by attacking with the Crackling Drake. I think the Electromancer attack's fine, force my opponent to trade if he wants. I was kind of hoping this would keep them back, but because my opponent doesn't really have too many ways to beat it. But it was pretty heinous. I'm playing it very risky here. If my opponent has any removal spell, then I'm feigning removal, so I'm hoping my opponent won't go for it. But I actually don't have a removal spell. All I have is this one Radical Idea in my graveyard. So if he can bring back the Phoenix, which he can, I'm one removal spell from just dying when I'm in such a commanding position at this point. So it was a very aggressive attack with that Crackling Drake, and I was hoping it wouldn't punish me. As soon as I made the attack, I immediately regretted it. And my opponent actually doesn't have any lands here, so it doesn't seem like it. So it looks like I've got away with it. Then they play the red mana, and I'm thinking, oh god, if they have a shock here, I'm in real big trouble. Here comes the third Phoenix. I have to go for this Radical Idea just to survive. And ideally I draw into a shock just to make up for my mistake. Well, Shivan Fire, that's what came in after the board. So I mean, like I said, I played this way too aggressively here. I should have just kept that Crackling Drake back and played for the control game. But I got a little bit too greedy, wanted to put a bit more pressure on my opponent, and well, sure enough, they do have the shock, and now I'm dead, which was really big bummer because I was so close to turning the game. I have 3 Crackling Drakes in hand. You know, I would have been on 3 life here if they'd attacked at all. And yeah, it was really big. That was a really heinous attack. I don't know what I was thinking. I was trying to scare them. I think that was the thing. I saw that they were hesitant with their attack in game 1, and I was like, okay, I'll scare them with this big attack, making them think I'm going to try and turn the corner very quickly here. But I mean, my opponent's my opponent. They just called my bluff, and I looked like an idiot. So that was a heinous mistake, and it really cost me. I was feeling really bad as well because I'm much better post board than them. So, like, throwing away a game just means if I get mana screwed or something game 3, I'm in really big trouble. I've just lost a match that I was favoured in, so I was kicking myself, but you know, you've got to recover, and I will see you in a sec for game 3. So yeah, after that horrendous misplay, I was just hoping for an easy game. You know, sometimes you get them really hard games of Magic, and sometimes you just get an easy one. So I was just hoping it wouldn't cost me because I knew I'd have to upload it, and I'd get thousands of people. Yes, exactly thousands of people. I'd get thousands of people letting me know how bad I am at Magic. So my ego is just far too big for that. Anyway, game 2. Pretty okay hand. I have the double sulfur 4 I can't speak. The double sulfur 4 draw, and obviously means I can't do anything turn 2, but not the end of the world. My opponent has the turn 2 Electromancer. Luckily I have the Shivan Fire in hand to dispatch that quickly. So kind of almost like I'm on the draw this game, which you can't complain at. And I then draw the land naturally. Finally I draw a land naturally, and that allows me to discover here. It was kind of an awkward one. I kind of wanted both these cards, but at the same time I didn't want any of them. I think I've got no lands, so in the end I actually decided to ditch the dive down and keep Ral just because it's pretty powerful in this matchup. I actually have spells in my graveyard this time. And again, with a Charter Course and a Radical Idea, I mean, the chances I'd whiff on lands are just abysmally low. So I was willing to take that risk. Because I killed my opponent's Electromancer, they didn't really have, you know, the chance of too explosive of a draw, which is always a nice place to be. I didn't expect my Electromancer to survive, of course, and sure enough, it died instantly. Many Electromancers died in the making of this video, and they pass it back to me. So I draw the negate, but I do need to hit land drops here, so take the risk again. Finally I got rewarded for it. Bye bye Radical Idea. Could have played the Charter Course again, but I decided to keep up negate because in the Phoenix matchup, I cannot stress this enough. You counter their Charter Courses, you counter their Tormenting Voices. The deck just relies on its pieces like that to work. So I'm absolutely fine. I mean, you could have played Drake and I look like a fool, but it's worth the risk because You've got to stop them getting this stuff in the graveyard and stop them exploding it out. And sure enough, with that charcoal, my opponent is back to doing nothing, and I can resolve a RAL on an empty board, exactly where you want to be after the board here. And Crackling Drake number 2. So I mean, my late games is looking pretty insane at this point. I have double Crackling Drake, Charter Ghost. I've just got a huge chance of winning through this. Not to mention RAL drawing me a card every turn my opponent can't answer it. They're on the hardcast Phoenix plan. Like if I'd let that Charter Ghost resolve, there's a very good chance they could have just triple spelled and got like 2 Phoenix in the graveyard and then killed that RAL there. But because I countered the Charter Ghost, RAL survives. It's now ticking up again, so it's drawn me 2 cards. Could have chose either one here, but obviously you get value by putting Beacon Bolt in your graveyard, and drawing the second RAL's insurance was pretty nice, in case my opponent did have an answer plus a shock or something. But I'm playing an 8-4 Crackling Drake already on turn 6, I think. So, like, my opponent's got to respect that. There's a very good chance I could just attack with 2 Drakes and kill them or something. So, again, just moving on to a draw with the Charter Coasters and stuff. And things are looking pretty positive at this point. My opponent would need a like 4 Drake attack or something like that. I think that would be the ideal thing for my opponent. They hardcast a second Arc-like Phoenix here. And it's a tough attack. Do they take RAL down to 1 and lose a Drake, or do they hold back? They decide to attack. If he has a shock here, I'm perfectly fine. Either RAL or my Crackling Drake dies and I'm still in a commanding position. Depending which one they kill here, of course. They decide to kill the Crackling Drake. Not entirely sure that's right, but I can't blame them either way, to be honest. And RAL gets to tick up for a 3rd time. And there is... Could have chose either one here. I actually debated for a while. I actually ended up going for the land, I think. Yeah, go for the land. I mean, at this point I just want to hit land drops. I'm playing stuff like Crackling Drake, Charter Coast to draw me extra cards and stuff. So, and I also have the Lava Call here, absolutely going to exile the Drake. My opponent is, like I said, they're all in on the Phoenix plan. So killing a Drake is obviously pretty good in that regard. Exiling Drake, they'll never be able to bring it back. And like I said, my internet wasn't really particularly great at this point, and I was more worried about disconnecting and losing the match than any other means at this point. They play Electromancer into a Lava Coil, which was a pretty good turn, but I mean, I'm just commanding such an advantage at this point. I've got a second RAL, even if they could answer, and this Beacon Bolt kills them, and then there's Niv Mizzet, and this game's just over. My opponent is empty-handed. They don't think they have any answers to a Niv Mizzet, and I'm going to get to play a land, Charter Ghost. Full disclaimer here, I actually make a misplay. I miscount how many draws I get, like how many pings I get off the Niv Mizzet, and I think I can kill both here, but at some point I do realise I actually only get to kill one, so maybe it's probably better going face there. But, I mean, I still get to kill one and then just ping one in the face, so not the end of the world. But yeah, my opponent needs a pretty spectacular top deck at this point, and I don't think they have stuff like Entrancing Melody or Beacon Bolt. I may be wrong, I can't remember. But I mean, I have a Planeswalker and Niv Mizzet. They draw the Enigma Drake. Yeah, that's doing absolutely nothing on this board. So, like I said, if you untap with Niv Mizzet in any deck in Standard, pretty much you just win. And I've not even have I only got a Niv Mizzet, I've got a RAL as well. So, like I said, I just got to go off this turn. My opponent's dead. Even if they're not physically dead this turn, there's probably a way I could have killed them. But I think metaphorically they were dead a long time ago. They were dead that turn that RAL resolved. And isn't that what Magic's about? So we're kind of just going through the motions at this point. If I'm an opponent, I'd do the exact same thing. You can't concede in a tournament, but you just have to play it out knowing you're like 3% chance to win. Like I said, my biggest fear at this point was my internet conking out. So I'm trying to rush the triggers and stuff. I was really scared my internet would drop. As you can see, things start getting a bit laggy here and there throughout this recording. But my opponent's down to 7. I have the negate up as well, so even if they draw into a non-creature answer, they're dead. If they draw into a creature, they die to the Lava Coil. So I mean, I think they have a 0% chance of winning the game at this point. So I'm discarding the hand size, which is a pretty dominant show of force here. What do they draw? They draw Discovery, just to prevent any shenanigans. I'm going to negate it. Obviously, there's no reason not to. And yeah, draw a bunch of cards, start picking them some more. Pretty dominant display in this game. My opponent didn't get the best draw, but I do think countering that charter course was very key to me winning this game. I fully can expect my opponent to smooth out the draw if I don't counter that there. So, despite my horrendous play in the earlier two games, I think I did play pretty well in game 3. So that takes me I think that takes me to 2-1 overall in the standings. So a lot of good friends I know are 2-1 as well. So hopefully we'll get a spicy NGA matchup in the future. But I'd like to say thank you guys for watching, and I will see you later.